I never expected to see Dominic Voss again. Not after he mocked me in front of everyone at Nationals when we were teenagers. Not after he'd risen to Olympic glory while I faded into the shadows of the skating world. Yet here he was, gliding across the ice of my hometown rink with that same effortless perfection that once made me both admire and despise him. The new head coach, I repeated, nearly spilling my coffee when the rink manager delivered the news. Dominic Voss is going to be my boss. That first morning, watching him execute a flawless quad loop, I tried to slip away unnoticed, but his eyes locked with mine, recognition flickering before that familiar cold smirk appeared. Alaric Novak, he said, skating toward me with predatory grace. Still hanging around rinks, I see. Working under my former bully was torture enough. The way he criticized my choreography, scheduled dawn practices, demanded perfection I wasn't sure I could deliver. I told myself I could handle it professionally, keep my distance. But then came that practice session when he pulled me close to demonstrate a movement. Like this, he whispered, his hands firm on my waist, breath warm against my neck. Feel the tension in the transition. I felt tension all right, but not the kind he meant. Something electric sparked between us that had nothing to do with ice dance, and everything to do with the way his eyes lingered on mine a moment too long. I never expected to fall for the man who once broke my confidence. Yet here I was, caught in his orbit again, wondering if this time would shatter me completely. Before we start the video, buckle up, get ready and subscribe for a special surprise tomorrow. The clock on my phone read 5:47 a.m. as I pulled into the near-empty parking lot of Lakeside Ice Arena. My ancient car, Tanya, sputtered dramatically before I cut the engine, as if protesting the ungodly hour. I couldn't blame her. The sky was still dark, painted with the faintest tint of purple at the horizon, promising a sunrise I'd rather have watched from under my warm blankets. But duty called, or more accurately, my dwindling bank account called. Between my main job as a choreographer for the junior skaters and my shifts at Frostbite Coffee, I was barely keeping my head above water financially. Which meant that when Diane, our rink manager, had asked if I could come in early to work with Maya before school, I'd agreed without hesitation. Maya was my star student, a 14-year-old with Olympic potential and parents willing to pay for extra sessions. Their money meant my rent got paid on time. I lugged my skate bag over my shoulder and hurried toward the employee entrance, fumbling with my keys. The blast of cold air that greeted me was familiar and oddly comforting. Rinks always smelled the same, a mixture of ice, sweat, and dreams. I'd spent most of my life in them, first as a competitive skater with too much ambition and too little nerve, then as a choreographer trying to give others what I couldn't achieve myself. The lights were already on in the main rink area, which was strange. Maya wasn't due for another half hour, and the maintenance crew usually didn't arrive until 7. I dropped my bag in the staff room and headed toward the ice, curious. That's when I heard it, the distinctive sound of blades carving through ice with power and precision. Someone was skating. And not just skating, but moving with the kind of authority that comes from thousands of hours of elite training. I stood in the shadows of the entrance and watched, mesmerized. The figure executed a perfect quadlets triple-toe combination that made my breath catch. Their posture was impeccable, arms extended with elegant confidence, landing rock solid. This wasn't just a good skater. This was world class. The skater turned, and for the first time I could see his face. My heart stuttered. Dominic Voss, Olympic gold medalist, 3-time world champion, and the boy who had once made my adolescent life a special kind of hell. I must have made a sound, because he stopped abruptly, dark eyes landing on me with laser focus. For a moment, he just stared, and I had the absurd urge to run. Instead, I stepped forward into the light. "Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt," I said, my voice sounding embarrassingly small in the cavernous space. He skated toward the barrier where I stood, movements effortless. Up close, he was even more imposing than I remembered. Taller than me by at least 5 inches, with broad shoulders and sharp features that had only grown more defined with age. The years had been kind to Dominic Voss. The skinny teenage boy with the cruel smile had become a man whose face regularly appeared on sports magazines and energy drink commercials. "You work here?" he asked, voice cool and faintly accented. Born in Germany but raised in the U.S., Dominic had always maintained that slight European lilt that coaches had deemed marketable. "I'm the choreographer for the junior program," I replied, straightening my shoulders. "Alaric Novak." He studied me with those dark eyes, a slight furrow forming between his brows. "Novak," he repeated slowly. "Did we compete against each other? Your name sounds familiar." Of course it did. We'd been in the same competitions for years as teenagers. Once at Nationals, I've fallen during my short program right in front of where he was watching. He and his friends had laughed loud enough for the cameras to pick up. I've been so mortified I'd cried during the scorecard reading, which had only given them more ammunition. The skating forums had nicknamed me the Waterworks for months afterward. But apparently I hadn't even been memorable enough for him to recall this clearly. Junior circuit about 10 years ago, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Nothing major. Recognition dawned on his face, and with it, that smirk I remembered too well. Right, the crybaby. You did a spectacular faceplant during your Tchaikovsky program. My cheeks burned. A decade later, and he could still make me feel 2 inches tall with just a few words. What are you doing here? I asked, changing the subject. Lakeside isn't exactly an Olympic training center. No, it's not, he agreed, running a hand through his dark hair. But as of today, it is where I work. I blinked, sure I'd misheard. You work here, at Lakeside? Diane didn't tell you. His smirk widened into something almost predatory. I'm the new head coach. The board brought me in to elevate the program's profile. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. Dominic Voss was going to be my boss. The universe had a sick sense of humor. That's unexpected, I managed to say. For both of us, he replied, eyes skimming over me in a way that felt uncomfortably like an assessment. I didn't realize small-town rinks had dedicated choreographers these days. Before I could respond, the doors opened and Diane bustled in, followed by Maya and her mother. Diane's face lit up when she saw us together. Oh good, you've met, she exclaimed. Olaric, isn't this exciting? Dominic will be overseeing all our programs now, including choreography decisions. My stomach dropped. Not only was he my boss, but he had authority over my creative work. Maya was staring at Dominic with undisguised awe, clutching her mother's arm. I couldn't blame her. In our world, Dominic Voss was royalty. I was just telling Olaric about my role, Dominic said smoothly. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's been working on with the junior skaters. The way he said it made it clear he had low expectations. The next 2 hours were a special kind of torture. Maya, normally confident and focused in our sessions, became a nervous, giggling mess under Dominic's gaze. When I tried to lead her through the new program I designed, she kept glancing at him for approval. Your arabesque needs height, he called out, interrupting my instruction. And your free leg should be fully extended through the spiral sequence. I bit my tongue. Maya was working on musical interpretation today, not technical elements. We're focusing on the emotional arc of the middle section, I explained quietly. Dominic raised an eyebrow. Emotion is meaningless without technical precision, and technique is empty without artistic expression. I countered before I could stop myself. A tense silence fell. Maya and her mother looked between us uncomfortably. Perhaps we should continue this discussion in private, Dominic said with a tight smile. Maya, work on those level 4 spin positions we discussed. Olaric, a word. He skated to the gate and stepped off the ice, leaving me no choice but to follow. When we were in the corridor, out of earshot, he turned to me with ice in his eyes. Let me make something clear, Novak. I was brought here to turn this recreational club into a training ground for serious competitors. That means every aspect of the program needs an overhaul, including your choreography. My choreography has helped these kids win at regional level, I defended. Regional, he repeated with a dismissive scoff. I'm aiming higher. Starting tomorrow, all choreographers report to the rink at 6 a.m. for mandatory technique sessions. I need to see what I'm working with. 6 in the morning. With my late shift at the coffee shop, that would leave me with barely 4 hours of sleep. That's not in my contract, I said. Dominic stepped closer, and I fought the urge to back away. Your contract states you'll support the development of the program under the head coach's direction. That's me now. 6 a.m., Novak, don't be late. He strode away, leaving me seething in the hallway. Working under my former bully was going to be even worse than I'd imagined. Again, Maya. Higher extension through the inner bower. I stood at the boards, watching as Maya had attempted the move for the 5th time. It was 6:45 a.m., and we'd already been on the ice for nearly an hour. Dominic had kept his word about the early morning sessions, and for the past 2 weeks, he'd systematically dismantled every program I'd created. Maya's face showed the strain of concentration as she tried to meet his exacting standards. When she wobbled slightly on the exit, Dominic's sigh echoed across the empty rink. Take 5 minutes, he called out. Hydrate and stretch. We'll try again. As Maya skated to the gate, I handed her a water bottle. You're doing great, I whispered encouragingly. The extension is much better. She gave me a weak smile before collapsing onto a bench. At 14, she was resilient, but even she had limits. Dominic's training regimen was pushing them. Novak, Dominic beckoned me onto the ice. A moment. I stepped onto the surface, my blades cutting clean lines as I glided toward him. The morning light filtered through the high windows, catching on his dark hair and the sharp angles of his face. It was annoying how put together he looked at this ungodly hour. Maya's program isn't working, he stated flatly. I bristled. She just needs time to build stamina for the new elements you've added. It's not the elements, it's the choreography. His eyes met mine, challenging. It's too safe. There's no risk, no ambition. She's 14, not 24, I argued. The program is age-appropriate and plays to her strengths. Her strengths? He scoffed. You're holding her back. She has far more potential than you're allowing her to express. The accusation stung. I'd spent months crafting that program, carefully building it around Maya's musical sensibility and elegant line. Not every skater needs to be a technical powerhouse. Maya's artistry is special. Artistry without technical foundation won't get her past sectionals, Dominic countered. Let me show you what I mean. Before I could protest, he moved to the center of the ice and took the starting position of Maya's program. I watched, arms crossed, as he began to skate my choreography. At first, I was prepared to hate whatever he did with it. But as he moved, something unexpected happened. He wasn't mocking my work. He was elevating it. Where Maya performed the movements with youthful precision, Dominic infused them with subtle complexity. A deeper edge here, a more committed position there. He maintained the essence of my choreography, while adding layers of sophistication I hadn't considered. Despite myself, I was mesmerized. This was why he had gold medals. There was a depth to his skating that couldn't be taught. He finished the segment and skated back to me. Do you see what I mean? It needs more moments like that, places where she can develop beyond her comfort zone. For once, I couldn't argue. I do see it, I admitted reluctantly. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe even a hint of respect. Good. Then perhaps we can actually work together instead of against each other. That would be a refreshing change, I said dryly. The ghost of a smile touched his lips, but as he moved to demonstrate another section, he winced suddenly, his hand going to his lower back. Are you all right? I asked, noticing how he'd stiffened. Fine, he dismissed, but I saw the flash of pain he tried to hide. He pushed off again, but on his next jump, a simple double axel. His landing was awkward, and he grimaced as his blade connected with the ice. I skated closer, professional concern overriding our personal tension. That's not nothing. Let me see. I said I'm fine, Novak. And I have a degree in kinesiology, so maybe let me be the judge of that. He looked at me sharply. You do? I nodded. Community college. Not as impressive as Olympic gold, but it means I know when someone's hiding an injury. For a long moment, he seemed to debate whether to continue the charade. Finally, he sighed. Old competition injury. It flares up sometimes. Does sometimes mean whenever you overexert yourself before dawn. He shot me a withering look. Are you always this impertinent with authority figures? Only the ones who push themselves and their students to the point of injury, I replied evenly. Let me help. I can show you some PT exercises that might help manage it. He studied me with skepticism. And why would you want to help me? It was a fair question, given our history and the tension of the past 2 weeks. Because despite our differences, we both want what's best for these skaters, I said honestly. And they need a coach who isn't wincing every time he demonstrates a jump. After a moment's consideration, he gave a curt nod. After hours, I don't want the students or board members knowing about this. Meet me here at 8 tonight. After the public session ends, I said, surprised he'd agreed. And bring a yoga mat. By the time I returned to the rink that evening, exhaustion was settling heavily on my shoulders. My shift at Frostbite Coffee had been particularly grueling. A rush of college students cramming for midterms had kept me making complicated espresso drinks for hours. The main lights were dimmed, with just enough illumination to see the ice and the surrounding area. Dominic was already there, sitting on a bench with a black yoga mat rolled beside him. He changed from his training gear into a simple gray t-shirt and black sweatpants. You came, I observed, dropping my bag. I said I would. He stood and I noticed again the careful way he moved. The injury was definitely bothering him more than he let on. Lie on your back, I instructed, pointing to the mat. When he arched an eyebrow at the command, I added please. With obvious reluctance, he complied. I knelt beside him, professional mode engaged. I'm going to check your alignment first, then we'll do some release work. Tell me if anything hurts. I placed my hands on his shoulders, then traced down his spine with careful pressure. His body was tense under my touch. Whether from pain or the strangeness of our situation, I couldn't tell. Lower, he directed when I reached his mid-back. Left side. I adjusted my positioning, fingers finding the knot of muscle near his lower vertebrae. When I applied gentle pressure, he inhaled sharply. That's it, he confirmed. Old stress fracture that never healed properly. I worked in silence for a few minutes, using techniques I'd learned in my sports medicine classes. Gradually, I felt some of the tension release under my hands. How long has it been bothering you? I asked to break the uncomfortable silence. On and off for years. Worse lately. He hesitated. This comeback wasn't exactly planned. Comeback. His eyes fixed on the ceiling. I lost my coaching position in Colorado after a disagreement with the rink owner. The last few competitions I'd entered hadn't gone well. Sponsors were dropping. He paused. This job is my last chance to stay relevant in the sport. The admission surprised me. In the skating world, Dominic Voss seemed untouchable. I'd never considered that he might be struggling too. Hence the intense training schedule I ventured. You need results quickly, he nodded. The board gave me 1 season to show improvement in the program's competitive standings. Maya could do it, I said. She has the talent. She does, he met my eyes. Your choreography has a good foundation. I was too harsh in my initial assessment. Coming from Dominic, this was practically a groveling apology. Did that hurt to admit? I teased, pressing slightly harder on the tight muscle to emphasize my point. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Nearly as much as what you're doing to my back right now. The unexpectedly human response caught me off guard, and I found myself smiling back. Try this stretch, I said, demonstrating a spinal twist. Daily, not just when it flares up. He followed my instruction, and our session fell into a rhythm. I showed him exercises. He performed them with the precision of an elite athlete. When our hands occasionally brushed during adjustments, I tried to ignore the strange electricity that seemed to arc between us. Same time tomorrow? I asked as we were packing up. Dominic nodded, his expression unreadable. Thank you, Alaric. It was the first time he'd used my first name instead of my surname. Something about the way he said it made my heart beat a little faster than I cared to admit. Our evening therapy sessions became a routine over the next few weeks. By day, Dominic and I maintained a professional distance, working with the skaters and refining programs. But after the rink closed, something different emerged between us. Not quite friendship, but a fragile truce built on mutual respect. Your back is definitely improving, I noted one night as he moved through the exercises with increasing fluidity. The board members have noticed. Diane commented that I look less like I'm being tortured when I demonstrate jumps. I laughed. High praise indeed. Dominic sat up, wiping his face with a towel. In the dim light of the empty rink, shadows accentuated the sharp lines of his jawline. The doctor wants me to consider surgery. For your back. That's major. He nodded, expression somber. It would end any chance of competing again. You still want to compete? I asked, surprised. Even with the coaching position? I don't know. His voice was uncharacteristically vulnerable. Skating competitively is all I've known since I was 7. The thought of never doing it again feels like losing part of myself. I understood that feeling all too well. When I'd stepped away from competition, it had felt like amputating a limb. It's hard to let go of who you thought you'd be. His dark eyes studied me. Is that why you stayed in skating? Choreography lets you keep one foot in that world? Partly, I admitted. But I also discovered I'm better at creating programs than performing them. Stage fright was always my downfall. The Nationals incident, he said quietly. I was a jerky back then. Acknowledgement caught me off guard. You were, I agreed. But teenagers are generally terrible creatures. A comfortable silence fell between us. Outside, snow had begun to fall, dusting the windows with white. We should wrap up, I said, checking the time. It's getting late, and the storm's supposed to get worse. Dominic rose to his feet with newfound ease. The program for Maya is coming together well. The changes you suggested for the step sequence really work, I acknowledged, though I still think my original spiral entry was better. He scoffed good-naturedly, stubborn as always. I prefer artistically committed, I countered with a smile. We walked together to the staff room to gather our things. The rink was eerily quiet after hours, just the distant hum of the cooling system and our footsteps echoing off the walls. Your coffee shop is on Maple Street, right? Dominic asked as we prepared to leave. Near that bookstore. I nodded, surprised he knew. Why? I might drop by tomorrow. Their lats are decent. I'll be there from noon to 6, I said, trying to sound casual about the fact that Dominic Voss was planning to visit me at work. He pulled on his coat, then hesitated. Alaric, about your program for Maya. I spoke with a national team scout yesterday. They're interested in seeing her at the qualifying event next month. My heart leaped. Seriously? That's huge for her. For both of us, he said meaningfully. Your choreography and my technical direction. We make a good team. The compliment warmed me more than it should have. We do, don't we? Who would have thought? His gaze lingered on mine a moment too long, something unspoken passing between us. Good night, Alaric, he said finally, his voice oddly soft. Good night, Dominic. The next day at Frostbite Coffee was chaotic. A winter festival in the town square had brought in tourists, and I'd been making drinks non-stop since my shift began. When Dominic walked in around 3, I almost didn't notice him among the crowd. Busy day? He asked when I finally looked up to take his order. Just a bit, I replied, pushing a strand of hair from my forehead. What can I get you? Double espresso, no sugar. Of course that would be your order, I muttered, strong and bitter. A smile tugged at his lips. You think you know me so well now? I punched in his order. Am I wrong? Not entirely, he admitted. As I worked the espresso machine, he leaned against the counter. The doctor called with my MRI results. The injury is worse than they thought. My hand stilled. What does that mean? Surgery is the only option if I want to avoid permanent damage, he said quietly. It's scheduled for after sectionals. Dominic, I'm sorry. Don't be. It's not unexpected. His tone was resigned. I've had a good run. The vulnerability in his voice made something twist in my chest. I handed him his espresso. On the house. He raised an eyebrow. Won't your manager mind? I'm covering it, I said. Consider it moral support. His fingers brushed mine as he took the cup, and the contact sent a jolt through me that had nothing to do with the static electricity of winter air. Thank you, he said simply, and I knew he meant for more than just the coffee. That evening, our therapy session felt different. A new tension hung in the air between us, amplified by the knowledge that these sessions would soon end. As I guided him through stretches, my hands lingered on his shoulders longer than necessary. His eyes followed my movements with an intensity that made my skin warm. You never said why you quit competing, he remarked as we finished up. Just that you had stage fright. I sat back on my heels. It wasn't sustainable. My family had already sacrificed too much. My father worked 3 jobs to pay for my training. But you had talent, he insisted. I remember more than just the fall, you know. Your artistic scores were always exceptional. Not enough to overcome my technical shortcomings, I said with a shrug. I made peace with it long ago. Dominic sat up, facing me directly. Do you ever miss it, the competition? Sometimes, I admitted, but I find different satisfaction in choreography. Watching someone perform something I created, seeing it come to life through their movement, there's a magic in that too. He was quiet for a moment, contemplative. I'm afraid, he said suddenly, the words barely audible. Of what comes after. I've never been anything but a skater. The confession, so raw and honest from someone who'd always seemed invincible, stirred something protective in me. Without thinking, I reached out and took his hand. You're more than your medals, Dominic. He stared at our joint hands, then up at me. The look in his eyes shifted, darkened. The air between us seemed to crackle with unspoken possibility. Alaric, he said, my name sounding like a question. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. He leaned forward, and I didn't move away. His free hand came up to cup my cheek, surprisingly gentle. And then his lips were on mine, hesitant at first, then more insistent as I responded. The kiss deepened, his fingers threading through my hair, pulling me closer. Years of tension, animosity transformed into something else entirely, ignited between us. I found myself pressed against him, heart-hammering, lost in the sensation of his mouth on mine. Reality crashed back when we broke apart for air. I scrambled to my feet, suddenly aware of what had just happened. With whom? I can't do this, I said, my voice shaking. This isn't real. You're just vulnerable about your surgery and looking for distraction. Confusion flashed across his face, followed by something like hurt. That's not what this is. Isn't it? A few weeks ago, you could barely remember who I was, except as the crybaby who embarrassed himself in front of you. That's not fair, he protested. Things have changed. Have they? Or am I just convenient? The sad choreographer who never made it, happy for any attention from the great Dominic Voss. The words tumbled out, bitter and defensive, born from old insecurities. He stood now too, his expression hardening. Is that really what you think of me? That I'd toy with you? Wouldn't you? It wouldn't be the first time. As soon as I said it, I regretted it. We weren't teenagers anymore, but the past still cast a long shadow. I see. His voice went cold, the warmth from moments ago vanishing. Message received, Novak. He gathered his things in tense silence and left without another word, leaving me alone in the empty rink with only the echo of what might have been. For the next 3 days, I avoided being alone with Dominic. I arrived at the rink exactly when practice started and left the moment it ended. During sessions, we maintained a frigid professionalism that the skaters definitely noticed, exchanging questioning glances whenever we refused to make eye contact. Trouble in paradise. My roommate Theo asked when I returned home early from the 4th night in a row, instead of staying for my usual therapy session with Dominic. There is no paradise, I muttered, collapsing onto our worn couch. And no trouble. Everything's fine. Sure, which is why you've been stress baking at 3 a.m. I found 6 trays of cranberry scones in the kitchen this morning. I groaned, covering my face with a cushion. It's complicated, let me guess, Theo said, snatching the cushion away. You and the Ice Prince finally acknowledged the obvious sexual tension. Something happened, and now you're freaking out. I stared at him. How did you know? Please, you've been coming home from those therapy sessions looking like you've been electrocuted for weeks. So what happened? Did he make a move? He kissed me, I admitted, the memory still vivid enough to make my pulse quicken. And I kissed him back. Then I panicked and accused him of using me as a distraction from his career problems. Theo winced. Ouch, was that fair? No, I said miserably. But I couldn't help it. This is Dominic Voss we're talking about. The guy who used to mock me mercilessly. The Olympic champion who dates models and has sponsorship deals with luxury brands. And I'm just me. And what's wrong with you? Theo challenged. Last I checked, you're talented, educated, reasonably attractive, and make exceptional stress-baked goods. I laughed despite myself. Thanks for the confidence boost. Anytime. So what now? Now I avoid him until these feelings go away or one of us quits. Mature, Theo said sarcastically. Or you could try talking to him like an adult. I threw the cushion at his head. Not helpful. The next morning, I arrived at the rink to find a note taped to my choreography binder. In Dominic's elegant handwriting, it read, Revised step sequence for Maya's program. Your spiral entry works better with these adjustments. D. It wasn't an apology or an acknowledgement of what had happened, but it was something. A professional olive branch. I tucked the note into my pocket, oddly touched that he'd conceded on the spiral entry we'd been debating. Maya's program continued to evolve over the next week, with Dominic and I communicating primarily through notes and brief professional exchanges. The tension remained, but beneath it was a new layer of awareness that made every accidental touch or lingering glance feel significant. Maya thrived under our combined coaching, mastering the complex technical elements Dominic demanded while embracing the artistic nuances I emphasized. When Diane announced that a reporter from Skating Today wanted to profile our innovative coaching partnership ahead of sectionals, panic flared in my chest. They went to interview us together, I asked, glancing at Dominic. Apparently our collaborative approach is noteworthy, he said, expression neutral. The board thinks it's good publicity for the rink. I see. I fidgeted with my scarf. And you're okay with that? Something flickered across his face. It's complicated. My management team thinks it would be better to focus on my Olympic background and comeback efforts. They're concerned about diluting my brand. Of course, I said, trying to hide the sting of his words. Wouldn't want to tarnish the Dominic Voss legacy by associating too closely with a small-town choreographer. That's not what I meant, he began, but I was already walking away, embarrassment burning my cheeks. I've been right to guard my heart. Whatever had happened between us was clearly not worth risking his precious brand over. The day before sectionals, the rink buzzed with nervous energy. Maya ran through her program one final time, looking more polished and confident than ever. Beautiful, I told her when she finished. You're ready. Thanks to both of you, she said, beaming at Dominic and me. I couldn't have done it without you guys working together. Dominic nodded, his rare smile making an appearance. You've put in the work. Now, show them what you can do. As Maya left with her mother, Dominic turned to me. Can we talk? About the interview tomorrow. There's nothing to discuss, I said stiffly. I understand I'm not the right fit for your image. Alaric, he said, frustration evident in his voice. You're purposely misinterpreting what I said. Before I could respond, the rink doors opened and a striking woman entered, wheeling a small suitcase behind her. Tall, blonde, and radiating confidence, she was instantly recognizable as Katja Weber, Dominic's former pairs partner from his early career. Dom, she called out, her German accent pronounced. Surprise. Dominic's face registered shock. Katja, What are you doing here?" She embraced him warmly, placing a lingering kiss near the corner of his mouth. "I heard about the sectionals. Thought he could use some moral support from an old friend." "This is unexpected," he said, casting an awkward glance my way. "Katja, this is Alaric Novak, Lakeside's choreographer." "Alaric Katjawever." "The crybaby?" Katja exclaimed, then immediately covered her mouth. "Sorry, that was rude. Dom mentioned you when we spoke last week." "Last week?" So they'd been in contact, and he talked about me, using that old nickname. "Charmed," I said coldly. "I should get going. Early morning tomorrow." "Wait," Dominic said, reaching for my arm. "We still need to discuss the interview." "I'm sure Katja can help you prepare," I replied, pulling away. She clearly knows the talking points. I left them standing there, my chest tight with an emotion I refused to name. Jealousy was too simple a word for the complicated tangle of feelings Dominic evoked in me. The sectionals venue was crowded with skaters, coaches, and families the next morning. Maya was scheduled to compete in the afternoon, but we'd arrived early to allow her to acclimate to the environment. Dominic had texted that he'd meet us there, but as the morning wore on, he still hadn't appeared. "Where's Coach Voss?" Maya asked nervously as her warm-up time approached. "I'm sure he's on his way," I assured her, trying to quell my own concern. It wasn't like Dominic to be late for a competition. When my phone finally rang, it was Diane, not Dominic. "Alaric, there's been a situation," she said, her voice tense. Dominic collapsed during his morning practice. He's at Memorial Hospital now. My blood ran cold. "What happened? Is he okay?" "His back. The doctor says he pushed too hard and aggravated the injury. They're running tests, but it doesn't look good." I glanced at Maya, who was watching me with wide, worried eyes. "I need to stay with Maya for her competition. Can you keep me updated?" "Of course. He asked for you, you know." When they were taking him to the ambulance, the knowledge that Dominic had asked for me twisted something in my chest. "Tell him I'll come as soon as Maya's finished." I hung up and forced a calm expression for Maya's sake. "Coach Voss had a minor medical issue. He's going to be fine, but he wants you to know he's cheering for you. We're going to proceed as planned." Maya nodded bravely, though her eyes betrayed her anxiety. "Is it his back? I noticed he was in pain yesterday." "It is, but the doctors are taking good care of him." I squeezed her shoulder. "Right now, your job is to focus on your program. Make him proud," and she did. Despite the unexpected absence of her head coach, Maya skated the program of her young life. Her technical elements were clean, her artistic expression mature beyond her years. She placed second overall, securing her spot at nationals and earning the attention of several Federation scouts. I waited until she was safely with her parents before slipping away to the hospital. By the time I arrived, it was early evening. A nurse directed me to Dominic's room, where I found him lying in bed, his face drawn with pain and frustration. "You came," he said when he saw me, surprise evident in his voice. "Maya qualified for nationals," I told him, hovering awkwardly by the door. "Second place." The scouts were impressed. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "I never doubted she would." He shifted, wincing. "And the interview? Postponed. The reporter agreed to reschedule for after you're released." Silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words. "The doctor confirmed what we already knew," Dominic finally said. "Surgery is the only option. No more competitive skating. Ever." The finality in his voice broke my heart. "I'm sorry, Dominic. Don't be. I pushed too hard, knowing the risks." His laugh was bitter, stubborn to the end. I moved closer to his bedside. "What happens now?" "Now I accept that this chapter of my life is over." He met my eyes directly. "About what I said, regarding the interview and my management team. I should have been clearer. They're concerned about my image, yes, but not because of you. Because of this." He gestured to his hospital bed. "A coach with a career-ending injury isn't exactly marketable." "Oh," I said, feeling foolish for my assumptions. "I let you believe otherwise because it was easier than admitting the truth. That I'm afraid of losing everything I've worked for. That I'm afraid of not being enough without skating." The vulnerability in his confession disarmed me. "You don't give yourself enough credit, Dominic. You're more than your achievements." He reached for my hand, and after a moment's hesitation, I let him take it. "You've been saying that all along, haven't you? I just wasn't listening." In the days following sectionals, everything changed. Dominic's surgery was scheduled for the following week, forcing him to step back from coaching temporarily. The board appointed me as interim head coach for Maya's nationals preparation, a responsibility that both terrified and exhilarated me. I visited Dominic at his apartment the night before his surgery. bringing homemade soup and bread that Theo had insisted would heal body and soul. Though I'd protested it was overkill, the smile that lit Dominic's face when he opened the door suggested otherwise. "You didn't have to cook for me," he said, ushering me inside. His apartment was surprisingly cozy, filled with books and plants, rather than the sterile showcase of medals and trophies I'd expected. Theo did most of it. I just provided moral support and taste tested, I admitted, setting the food on his counter. "How are you feeling?" "Nervous," he confessed, the admission easier between us now. "Not just about the surgery. About what comes after." He gestured for me to sit on the sofa beside him. "The doctor says recovery will take months. The board understands. They're holding your position." "I know." Diane called. He studied me for a moment. "How's Maya doing with the adjustment?" "Missing you," I said honestly, but focused. "The new adjustments to her free skate are coming along well." "I've been watching your practices," he admitted, surprising me. "The ring cameras. Your coaching has grown more confident." The compliment warmed me. I had a good example to follow, even if he was insufferably demanding. Dominic laughed, then winced as the movement jarred his back. In the dim light of his living room, he looked younger, more vulnerable. The imposing Olympic champion was just a man facing an uncertain future. "Alaric," he said, his voice serious. "Thank you for everything you've done these past months. I didn't do anything special." "You did." His eyes met mine with unexpected intensity. "You saw me as more than just my medals when I couldn't see it myself." Something shifted between us, the air charged with possibility. But before either of us could act on it, his phone rang, Katja's name flashing on the screen. "You should get that," I said, standing. "I should head out anyway. Hurley practice tomorrow." "Alaric, wait," he began, but I was already gathering my coat. "Good luck with the surgery. I'll check in afterward." I left before he could see the disappointment I couldn't quite hide. Whatever was developing between us, the timing was all wrong. He was facing a major life transition, and I had nationals to prepare for. Some things would have to wait. 2 weeks passed in a blur of intensive training. Dominic's surgery went well, but recovery kept him homebound. We texted daily, his messages filled with coaching advice and questions about Maya's progress. When he asked if I'd bring him the video footage from practice, I agreed. That night, I found myself back at his apartment, laptop in hand. He looked better, though still moved carefully as he led me to the sofa. "Show you everything," he said eagerly. "I'm going stir-crazy without the rink." We spent hours reviewing Maya's practices, heads close together as we discussed tiny adjustments to maximize her scores. The conversation flowed easily, professional at first, then drifting to more personal topics as the night wore on. "I turned down ESPN," he said suddenly. "What?" I looked up from my notes, startled. They offered me a commentator position for the spring competition circuit. A way to stay relevant during recovery. He shrugged. I said no. "But that's a huge opportunity." "Why?" His eyes met mine. "Because it would mean leaving, and I'm not ready to leave Lakeside, or the people here." The implication hung in the air between us. I swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. "I've been thinking a lot during recovery," he continued when I remained silent. "About what I want my life to be now. About who I want in it." "Dominic," I began, my heart racing. "You don't have to say anything," he said quickly. "I know the timing is complicated. Nationals is coming up, and you've taken on so much responsibility. I just wanted you to know where I stand." The sincerity in his voice undid me. Without overthinking, I leaned forward and kissed him, my hand gently cupping his face. He responded immediately, pulling me closer with careful movements that respected his healing body. When we parted, his smile was brighter than I'd ever seen it. "I was hoping you might do that," he admitted. "I've been wanting to since the hospital," I confessed. "But I wasn't sure if it was what you wanted, or if Katja might be in the picture." He looked puzzled, then understanding dawned. "Katja. She's engaged to her choreographer. She was here scouting locations for their wedding." He laughed softly. "Is that why you've been so distant? You thought Katja and I were together." I felt my cheeks heat with embarrassment. "She seemed very comfortable with you." "We've known each other since we were 10, he explained. "She's like a sister. The only one who's ever held my romantic interest at Lakeside is sitting right next to me." The weeks that followed were a delicate balance of professional focus and personal joy. By day I coached Maya with increasing confidence, incorporating Dominic's advice while developing my own style. By night, we built something new together, taking things slowly as his body healed. Nationals arrived with a flurry of excitement. Maya was a dark horse contender, attracting attention for her innovative program. As we stood ringside waiting for her turn to skate, I felt a familiar presence beside me. "Didn't think I'd miss this," Dominic said, carefully moving to stand next to me at the boards. Though he walked with a slight limp, he looked handsome in a tailored suit, his coach's credential hanging around his neck. "You're not supposed to be traveling yet," I scolded, unable to hide my happiness at seeing him. "Try stopping me," he replied with a grin. "Besides, I had official business. The national team coordinator wants to meet with us after the competition." Before I could ask what he meant, Maya's name was announced. We both turned our attention to the ice, watching as she took her starting position. The music began, and she transformed, embodying every nuance of the choreography we'd crafted together. When she finished, the arena erupted in applause. Maya flew into our arms with a kiss and cry, tears of joy streaming down her face. We watched in collective amazement as her scores appeared, placing her on the podium, bronze medal secured. "We get it," she whispered, squeezing our hands. "You did it," Dominic corrected, pride evident in his voice. The media descended immediately, cameras flashing as they captured the moment. One reporter pushed forward, microphone extended. "Coach Voss, this is quite a comeback story, though not the one you planned. How does it feel to coach a medalist after your own career was cut short?" I tensed, knowing how sensitive the subject was, but Dominic's response surprised me. "It feels like exactly where I'm supposed to be," he said confidently. "And I couldn't have done it without my partner, Alaric Novak. Our collaborative approach is what made Maya's success possible." The reporter turned to me. "Mr. Novak, you've been relatively unknown in the skating world until now. How does it feel to suddenly be in the spotlight?" I glanced at Dominic, drawing strength from his encouraging nod. "It feels like a validation of what we've been building at Lakeside. Not just technical excellence, but a program that honors the artistry of skating." More questions followed, but Dominic kept his hand at the small of my back, a subtle but clear statement about our relationship. Later, in the quiet of our hotel room, he revealed what the national team coordinator had discussed. "They're impressed with our coaching style," he explained, excitement coloring his voice. "They've offered us positions at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, full-time with the focus on developing the next generation of competitive skaters." I sat on the edge of the bed, stunned. "Both of us? Together? As a team," he confirmed. "Your choreography, my technical direction. They want what we created with Maya, but on a larger scale." He took my hands in his. "It's an incredible opportunity, Alaric. But it would mean leaving Lakeside, your apartment, everything familiar." The prospect was daunting, yet exhilarating. "What did you tell them?" "That I needed to discuss it with my partner." His expression grew serious. "I won't accept without you, Alaric. Whatever comes next, I want us to face it together." 6 months later, the Colorado Training Center buzzed with activity as summer intensives began. Our small cohort of elite junior skaters showed promising talent, including Maya, whose family had relocated to allow her to train with us year-round. "Coach Novak, can you show me the arm position again?" a young skater called out. I demonstrated the movement, catching Dominic's appreciative glance from across the ice. He'd fully recovered from surgery, and though he couldn't perform the jumps he once had, moved with grace and authority as he worked with another group on spins. "Better extension," he called to his students. "Like Coach Novak is showing, full commitment to the position." Our coaching styles had merged into something uniquely effective, each complementing the other's strengths. In the months since Nationals, we'd built not just a training program but a life together, sharing a small house near the mountains where Dominic was teaching me to ski on our rare days off. That evening, after the skaters had gone, Dominic pulled me onto the empty ice. "I have something planned," he said mysteriously, skating to the sound system. Music filled the rink, a piece I recognized immediately, the one I'd choreographed for Maya's breakthrough program. But Dominic had altered it, woven in new elements that spoke of our journey together. "May I have this dance?" he asked, extending his hand. Together we moved across the ice, our bodies finding natural harmony. Though I never competed at his level, years of choreographing had kept my skating skills sharp. We weren't pair skaters by training, but something about our connection made it feel natural, instinctual. As the music built to its crescendo, he guided me into a simple lift, careful with his still strengthening back. When he set me down, he didn't let go. "I love you, Alaric Novak," he said, the words echoing in the empty rink. "I think I started falling for you that first morning when you challenged me about Maya's program. No one had stood up to me like that in years. I love you too," I replied, the words coming easily now after months of building trust. "Even when you're insufferably demanding about edge quality." He laughed, then grew serious, reaching into his pocket. I had this whole speech planned, But now that we're here, words seem inadequate. He opened his palm, revealing a simple platinum band. Will you marry me? Be my partner on and off the ice? Joy bubbled up within me, so intense it felt like flying. Yes, I answered without hesitation. Though I hope you know this means our wedding will have to include a choreographed first dance on ice. I wouldn't have it any other way, he said, sliding the ring onto my finger before pulling me into a kiss. As we stood there, wrapped in each other's arms on the ice that had first divided and then united us, I marveled at how life had come full circle. The boy who once mocked my tears had become the man who helped me find my strength. The path hadn't been straight or simple, but standing here now, I wouldn't change a single step of the journey that had led us home.